All right, coming to you live here from Kubecon in the Netherlands, otherwise known as Holland. And more specifically, we're here at Amsterdam at Kubecon 2023 Europe. And I am here with
Donnie Berkholz.
Donnie. You can get a little closer to the microphone. We want to hear your resonant tones.
Yeah.
So, all right, you've got, well, first, let's just talk about your background and we'll talk about what you're doing now. And then I want to get your wisdoms, your thoughts, whatever.
Sounds good. Yeah, so now I've been doing open source stuff for more than 20 years.
Before I was born, but yeah, go on.
I wish. There's a lot more gray hair these days, that's for sure. I started contributing to open source with this project called Gentoo Linux. Turns out it's still around.
I've even heard of it.
And I just saw the Gentoo logo on a screen just the other day at Cloud Native Rejects right before KubeCon because they were talking about Flatcar Linux. And Flatcar was kind of derived from CoreOS. CoreOS used the package manager that Gentoo used. So somehow it's all still coming back around, like everything is full circle. Anyway, so I worked on Gentoo for a long time. And that was my lesson that working on open source projects in your free time can spiral in ways you never expected.
So what was your day job at that point?
At that point, I was a student.
Okay.
I was a student at that point. And that technology got me so excited in the community and the relationships that it eventually turned into a career. Right?
Okay.
I got more and more computational in my studies. I went to grad school. I did computational structural biology. If we even start talking about what that is, we're probably going to spend the whole conversation on it.
My eyes will glaze over. In fact, they already did when you mentioned it.
Exactly.
But anyway.
Did that. Did my postdoc at Mayo. It was drug discovery, computational pipelines, experimental stuff. And then jump ship completely. I said, hey, the tech is kind of more fun than the ends for me.
So was there a certain thing that what was the one event, or was it just sort of like, yeah, this other thing is okay, but not great? Or was there something about some new technology that really drew you to it?
It wasn't the new technology. It was the ability to create something from nothing and to do it so quickly. Science is long. It's years to get results in some cases from when you start a project. You can write a code and you can get a result if you don't make too many errors, right? In minutes.
Right.
In minutes. And it's just like that thrill of creation and going from using a computer to creating your own software. It was so powerful for me that I was like, man, this is more fun than the ends for me. The time to value is instant instead of years doing science. Jump ship took my analytical background, my technical communications from science, turned that into becoming an industry analyst at this firm called RedMonk.
See, that's where we met. So when was that?
I joined RedMonk in 2011.
Wow. So we've known each other for 12 years.
Exactly.
Crazy how time flies. And here we are today.
Here we are today, yeah.
So you were at RedMonk, and from there, how long were you there? Where did you go next?
I was at RedMonk for about 4 years and then moved to another analyst firm. Got an opportunity for a little bit bigger role, leading a team, doing kind of RedMonk-like things.
Were there numbers in it? Were there 3 numbers in it?
451 research.
Yes, exactly.
Since acquired by S&P Global.
So were you there before or after Michael Cote?
You know, it's he was almost like a pioneer, right? He's creating this trail, and I was like, oh, there are opportunities to follow after being an analyst. So he was at RedMonk.
So he was at RedMonk.
I didn't quite overlap there. Then he was at 451. I joined there after he left there again. I think he went to Dell right after that.
Yes, he did. Yep. Or no, was it backwards? Did he go to Dell for? I can't remember. I think he went. Well, yeah.
It's one of those orders anyway,
Right.
right? So there's in this industry analyst business, it's always very confusing, like what people might do afterwards. There aren't that many examples to point at and say that's the opportunity, especially for me because I am not a marketing expert.
What about like corporate strategy? Would that be something? I think that would be a fit.
That's what Cote did.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
And so did the analyst thing for a while. I got the itch to do things again, and so I ended up moving on to a company called CWT. Carlson Wagonlit Travel is what it used to be. Now it's CWT. The letters officially stand for nothing.
Nothing.
Just happens to be CWT. That's so funny how that works. To lead their DevOps transformation at the time.
Okay. And so how many years ago was that?
That was a long time ago now too. That was 2017.
So, okay, 2017, they were looking at DevOps transformation.
2017, right? They had this, as many companies do, they had this massive digital transformation happening. They realized to make that a reality, they had to get DevOps figured out. They had to get their ability to deliver consistent, high quality, reliable services sorted. So I joined to do that part of it. worked inside of the enterprise IT org there.
So how was that? Because it's always interesting to know how people go and make that transformation, and sometimes it's smoother than others. Was there a lot of cultural friction? Were people on board?
I think that the friction in the transformation was unevenly distributed, right? There's like that William Gibson quote.
I was just going to say, just like the future
is here, but it's unevenly distributed. It's the same thing, right?
Yep.
If you got a large technology organization, you got some teams that are not even on the bleeding edge. They're like past it. They're like, they haven't even gotten the cut yet where it starts to bleed.
Right.
They're just exploring new ways to create blades or whatever you want to call it. So some teams way out there, like some startups that we acquired over time, way out there doing the cool stuff, got their DevOps team doing all, on containers, running, at the time they were running like Docker Swarm for production workloads, which is pretty cool. And then you got teams all the way over at the other end that are running like IBM System I, right? Running sort of mini computer style stuff still, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Right? And what was so interesting about transformation is it didn't come all from the groups where you'd expect it to come from, right? It wasn't all the cool kids who were like, oh, finally, like we get to move faster and you're removing the barriers, IT. And in some cases, it came from the most traditional organizations who weren't getting the benefits of speed. They were getting benefits of quality.
Interesting. And, I talked to a group from Southwest Airlines who was on they're the people who support their cloud platform. And they exist to serve the developers. And I thought, isn't that kind of a bummer that you look to them to make them the superstars? And they said, what the benefit is, we all work together. We all get the faster. It just becomes less frustrating because we're working together. And so we are delivering what we want to be delivering. So,
yeah.
So then from there.
I was at CDBT, COVID hit, which is not a very interesting thing to happen if you're at a travel company.
Yes, don't travel
suddenly
as much.
Things change real quick. So I ended up moving on and doing a short stint.
You kind of feel grounded.
Yeah,
that's a pun. That's a real funny pun.
Pun intended.
Yes,
you're definitely grounded.
Yes,
no takeoff clearance.
I like that.
Things got real slow there, and I do best when I'm building new things.
Yep.
When I have opportunities to create, to strategize, to build the future, not to keep the lights on. So I ended up moving on to be, for a short stint, as the executive in residence at a little VC firm called Scale Venture Partners. And then those are typically like a kind of a rotation almost that you do for a little while. So I did like a short residency there for a few months, joined Docker to lead, kind of reinvent their product strategy, right? Because they had just divested their ops infrastructure business to Mirantis.
Yes.
And we're going after it and saying, is there a viable developer business
What
there?
year would this have been? Is this like 2020?
That was 2020. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So went in there, kind of reimagined their product strategy. Turns out it's been working out super well for them.
That's a good thing.
Last numbers they shared were, I think, early 22 when they had 4x ARR in a year to more than 50 million. And I don't think they've shared anything public since then, but presumably continue to grow.
So actually, to that point, since we've got someone who's been there, and something that's been in the news recently is make you pay for what you've got, and then people saying, you can't do that. And then I went to an interesting talk this morning by Kelsey Hightower about monetizing open source. And one of the things he talked about, which I think is great, is empathy, right? This idea that, hey, you're supposed to make everything for me for free. It should always be free. And when I need change requests, whatever, you need to fix the bugs, you need to do this. So from your point of view, how did that go, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got with open source projects, it's empathy for the open source developers. With companies, it's a little bit different approach where it's about like empathy for a company's need to have a viable business model.
Yes.
And in some cases, I think the biggest danger that you can have when you're trying to create a company around open source is giving away too much, because then you don't give yourself any opportunity to find a way to make money without pissing off your users, right? Because eventually you're gonna have to take some action of like flip the switch to turn all that free adoption into money. And the harder that flip is, the more angry you're going to make your users.
Yeah. I know sort of similar to that with Project Sputnik, the developer laptops. Sometimes you'll see threads, and someone will flame us for, why don't they do that? And then it's great when somebody comes in and says, well, look, probably to keep the business going, they probably need to do X and Y, and they have this tax and that tax. And so it's good to know that you want to make your best product for your customers at the best price, but you need to make money, because otherwise the product's not going to be there.
Exactly.
So
there's that Tim O'Reilly quote, right, around create more value than you capture. Right.
And, I like that.
Have some kind of a multiplier there. Is it 10x? Is it 100x? You've got to have enough value that you capture to create a business that is real and that is growing and that is sustainable.
Yeah,
that's the challenge so many companies run into, is they give away so much because the community is clamoring for it, right? People love free stuff.
Yep.
Nobody's going to say, like,
I love free food.
Give me less for free. I love it if you just made this easier for me to pay you money and force me to do it, right? Nobody says that. But that's the kind of hard decisions that you have to make as somebody who's leading product, for example, to say, look, sorry, we've got to charge for this stuff. And it's easier to start giving away less and increase it over time,
right,
than to say, guess what? We've given away too much. In fact, we've given away 99% of our value.
Yeah.
There's not enough left in that 1% for people to pay for it. You got to have like 10% or some meaningful amount. Would be like, oh, if I upgraded, I would go from here to there.
Right. And I think that overextension is never a good thing. It's focus. It's if you start small and then you add, and then you think about it before you go. If you get over your skis, as they say, you end up being a snowball down the mountain. So anyway, so now then your latest venture is you've hung out a shingle. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So right after Docker, I went to Percona, led product there.
Okay, right.
And then Percona's open source database stuff. Right.
Mm-hmm. I talked to some of them earlier today, but yes, they do the services on top of that, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the approach is the more open company. And so they've got versions of MySQL, Mongo, Postgres, that the goal is to be more open than the competition, right? Okay. Other companies have proprietary features. They're like, nah, we're going to rewrite that as open source.
Okay.
And then kind of figure out how to make money. It turns out a good model for that is services.
Yep.
Right? It's like the original open source business model of just monetize around the services.
And then
and so from there, as of a week ago, I'm
coming to you. This is an exclusive here at the Dell booth.
As a week ago, I started up this new thing called Platify Insights, right? Because I was thinking about my career and the sort of story arc that I've lived through over the course of it. The focus has been platforms all the way through, building them, using them, strategizing around them, advising around them. I thought, where am I uniquely good? Why would somebody go to a new analyst firm?
And probably not just good, but it really fires you up. It gets you excited.
It gives me I'm good at it and I'm excited about it, which means it's not just a hobby.
Well, and then it becomes a virtual circle, right? Because you're good because you're excited. You get more excited.
Exactly. And so I was like, all right, platforms, that's my thing. I'm going to go after it and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
This is the beginning. I was planning on spending a little bit more time getting things together, frankly. Yeah. But I ran into Alex Williams from the New Stack.
Oh, yes.
Over at the Cloud Native Rejects event, and told him a little bit about it. And he's like, oh, do you mind if I tweet? And I was like, all right, I guess we're just going to do this right now then. And that's the joy of being one person. Is you
once again, scooped by the New Stack. If I had a penny for every time, anyway. So you're here at Kubecon. What are some of the things? Obviously, Kubernetes is a big focus of it. It's in the name, but which is also an interesting thing is actually Kubernetes and KubeCon and the Cloud Native. The Cloud Native part, nobody says anymore.
No.
And so, but there is stuff more than just Kubernetes. So what have you, as you've gone through as an eye to maybe what you're thinking about, what opportunities there are for you, because these are opportunities, maybe say weak points that people have where you think you could help out, or your impressions, anything like that?
Yeah, I think what I've seen, I was at the Detroit show as well last fall. And what stood out to me there was the sheer number of companies that were doing like developer environments as a service. There were a lot of them there for some reason. Many of them are not here anymore.
So wait, is this the CDEs or more like the what you call it, the Spotify's thing?
Yeah, more like CDEs, right? That was a theme there for sure. And now
cloud development environments for those folks.
Yeah, and now it is kind of like the IDPs, right? The internal developer
Cote
portals.
used that word that I hadn't heard before at Dell. It's individual development plan, but I don't think this is.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, right?
Right,
It's not the friendly version of a pip. Internal developer portal, like
I guess
Backstage.
pip is universal because I knew it.
There you go.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Got
Right.
it.
Never a word you want to hear.
Right.
It's that's been standing out here to me a bit. Like that's starting to rise in intensity. Between you've got like companies like Humanitech that have been kind of beating the drum around platform engineering. DevOps is dead,
Right.
or DevOps has just turned a new page in its life, or it's like the Jekyll and the Hyde, and you turn around and you see the other side.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, my understanding is that it's a refocusing of, if you're talking about DevOps, you take more of which is kind of I won't say it's not ephemeral, but it's squishier, I guess. Everyone's sort of got their own take on it. It's a cultural movement. It's easier to focus on something tangible. And then if you talk about platform, it seems to be something central. It seems to be a nice center of gravity to hang all this stuff on around, but it gives you a place to start. And then from there, I guess, how would you define platform engineering platforms? Because I'm sure if we asked 5 different people here, they'd have 5 slightly different or very different definitions.
Yeah, I think about 3 big important aspects for it to really qualify as something you'd call platform engineering. And in fact, I built some of these things back when we were at CWT. So it's like, this is the right way to go. I'm maybe a little bit ahead of the curve inside of an IT department at the time. But now it's coming real, right? So you got 3 aspects to me. One of them is it has to be self-service, right? That was a big shift between DevOps and SRE and now platform engineering. Is DevOps and SRE were like, let's collaborate together. Let's more about infrastructure automation, maybe a little bit of CI, but not self-service interfaces for developers to get everything done. That part was one part. Another part is what I call platform operations, which is just that DevOps SRE model of how you are operating that platform on the back end, right? You got software is now the new interface primarily between your development teams and your SREs or your platform engineers.
Wasn't that always the vision, though?
I don't think it was.
Okay.
I totally don't, right? Because it was very much, DevOps has always been about the human relationships, the interconnections, not so much about how do you make that interface programmable and automated and do so in a way where it's self-service, right? It was like the infrastructure team would automate stuff and have the scripting, but you'd still have to file a ticket to them, and they still have to have a conversation through a ticket, right? Whatever ticketing system you have, and eventually approve it and run the script themselves instead of empowering the developers to go click a button and do whatever is within the constraints of the policy they're allowed to do. So I see that as part 2, platform operations, right? So self-service platform operations. Part 3 is really about, excuse me.
This is the pregnant pause. I know I'm on the edge of my seat.
Part 3 is about platform as a product. Right. And so this is where, bringing in my own experiences in product management, right, is saying you have to actually talk to the people inside your company who are consuming your platform and take sort of a platform or a product management mindset to running this thing, right? You might even have to hire a platform PM at some point, depending on how serious you're getting about it.
No, I mean, it seems to be a logical extension of thinking of developers as your customers. If they're your customers, you're providing with the service, you're providing with the product. One thing I was going to say, and I forgot that, but I'll ask the other question, and then I'll probably come back to it when I remember it. But Kubernetes, what role does it play in the platform? How central is it to the platform, as opposed to that's what's here now, but maybe it could be something later? I mean, you talked about Docker Swarm, which is obviously it's not the big flash that it was at one point. But yeah, so what is the role Kubernetes plays in this?
I think Kubernetes is just sort of the platform of the day, right? And so in some cases, you might be implementing some of these tools to run inside of Kubernetes. In other cases, it's about exposing access to Kubernetes to the right cluster, or maybe the right sorts of privileges, so that some developer team can get done what they're trying to accomplish. Right? Like you could accomplish this platform engineering model using GitOps if you want to, right? You can you don't need a fancy tool. You just say, hey, developers, we're just push this stuff into GitHub, and it'll automatically deploy. It'll run through some CI tool and get out there and do the right thing. Or you can have something a little bit more full-fledged, more fancier, maybe a GUI, maybe nicer APIs to it, like a Backstage or like other software to give a different interaction model, right? Like some companies, some developers like the GitOps approach. Some of them are looking for something that might be more comfortable for the pointy-haired boss or the admin teams that are a little bit more used to point-and-click management.
So, okay, just to conclude with, I got a twofer. One will be you can how do people contact you and if they want to start chatting with you. The other thing would be if you had advice for people who they're not on the bleeding edge, but more of the, hey, we're doing this DevOps thing, we're in the middle of it. What would you say is, I guess, so this is a twofer within the twofer, is, hey, watch out for this. This is a mistake or something you might want to steer away from. And then something about, if I were instead to look at something, look more at this.
Yeah, I think, so I'll start quick with the easy part of that, which is, so Platify Insights is the company.
Yep.
PlatifyInsights.com is the website. Just stood it up last week, so it's nice and fresh.
Spell it just in case the...
Yeah. Platify, so Platify. Insights as in insights.
But Insights, INSIGTHS.
Oh, stop.
See,
stop slipping in the wrong letters there.
That's what I wanted. I wanted to get the... So it's the... No, that's...
Yes, INSIGHTS.
Right.
Insights, yeah.
Okay.
So no flipping around those H's or taking out the G's there.
Oh, did I do that? Was my dyslexia coming up there?
Yeah.
But it's not... Well, I would confuse people further, but it's not SITS. It's nothing clever.
No, it's not like a website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not like when they spell drive-through, THRU. It's not like that.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm trying to think of other examples, but I can't.
Screw people up even more right
yes,
now. They're like,
exactly.
What are you talking about?
Exactly. So back to the what to buyer beware,
yeah,
or
so what to watch out for,
and then what to look forward to, or what to. Yeah,
I think that third one, the third component there, right? So we talked about self-service, we talked about platform operations, and we talked about platform as product. That third one is the biggest pitfall, is that people who've been working inside a fairly traditional IT shop for a long time, they're not used to listening to their users. Mm-hmm. They're especially not used to listening to their developers. They typically just put something on your roadmap a year out and be like, we are shipping this come hell or high water. Like, it's going to happen the way we said it is, because we're IT, we deliver on time, on budget, whatever, on scope, all the good stuff.
That's kind of like those pesky customers. I wish they'd just all go away.
Exactly. Like, okay, we're pushing out this new migration. Here's the thing. We bought it already. You're stuck with it.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing to watch out for. And the way to solve it is real easy, but maybe a little bit scary, which is go talk to your developers and ask them what their biggest problems are, what their biggest frustrations are, what they see as the biggest opportunities for them to get better.
Cool. I like that. Great. You stuck the landing, man. So Donnie, good luck with the new venture. And once again, it is PlatifyInsights. I'm looking at his badge while I'm saying it, so make sure I don't screw up. And it's .com?
.com.
Okay, good. I want to make sure it wasn't .edu or .io. And of course, now I've confused people further. So anyway, coming to you from Amsterdam, that's all the time we have for today. Once again, thank you, Donnie. And we're out.
Thank you.